Aisha had been planning this for weeks. She wanted Sarah's birthday to be special, and she had spent months saving to buy her a gift worthy of the bright, lively, and endlessly curious little girl. After endless research, she had found the perfect tablet, a device that would allow Sarah to learn, draw, and explore safely. When she placed it in her shopping cart and completed the purchase, Aisha felt a mix of pride and satisfaction. It wasn't a small amount of money, but it was her money, her choice, and her gift. The wrapping was simple yet elegant. She chose silver paper and tied it with a red ribbon, a touch of personal flair she hoped would delight her niece. For once, Aisha allowed herself to imagine the joy on Sarah's face, the excitement of unwrapping something truly unexpected. The thought filled her with warmth. This was her way of contributing, of showing love without needing to compete or explain herself. When she arrived at her brother Imran's house on the day of the party, she immediately sensed tension. The house was crowded, bustling with chatter, laughter, and the chaos of children running around. Balloons hung from every corner, and music blared from a speaker that seemed too loud for the size of the living room. It was festive, yes, but something about the atmosphere felt charged, not with joy, but expectation. Aisha placed her gift on the table with care. Before she could even settle, her sister-in-law, Nadia, appeared, eyes immediately locking onto the box. There was a hint of a smile, but the undertone was sharp. "Oh, you're here," Nadia said, glancing at the present. "This must be for Sarah. Perfect timing. She really needs a tablet. All the other kids have one after all." Aisha blinked. "Needs?" she repeated softly, confused by the assumption. Nadia laughed lightly as if dismissing the question. "Yes, of course. She's growing up. Anyway, put it with the other gifts." Without waiting for a response, Nadia walked away, leaving Aisha stunned. No acknowledgement, no thanks, just assumption. And worse, Aisha felt the familiar sting of being treated like her money was everyone's entitlement. She watched as the party continued around her, her unease growing. Whispers floated from nearby relatives. "She has no kids of her own. What else does she spend money on?" one aunt murmured. "At least she's useful for something," another replied with a knowing chuckle. Normally, Aisha would have ignored such comments. But today, combined with the dismissive attitude toward her gift, they cut deeper than she expected. The gift opening began, and all eyes turned to her. Nadia predictably seized the moment. "This one is from her Kala," she announced, motioning to Sarah. "We already know what it is." Before Aisha could intervene, Nadia snatched the silver-wrapped box from the table and handed it to Sarah. The wrapping tore, revealing the tablet. The room erupted in praise, with gasps and exclamations of delight. And then Nadia added the words that broke something in Aisha. "Well, it's about time," she laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "After all, you don't have kids of your own." Silence fell, punctuated only by small nods from relatives, as if acknowledging a universal truth. Aisha's chest tightened. Her brother avoided her gaze. Her niece, oblivious, clutched the gift. And Aisha felt a wave of anger, frustration, and humiliation she could no longer ignore. In a moment of quiet resolve, Aisha stepped forward and snatched the tablet back. The room froze. "What are you doing?" Nadia yelled, her face turning red. "I bought this gift," Aisha said firmly, her voice steady. "And I decide who deserves it." The room was dead silent. The guests gaped, some shocked, some appalled. A few murmured, questioning her judgment. Imran finally found his voice. "Aisha, it's a child's birthday. What are you thinking?" "No," Aisha replied calmly. "I'm thinking about respect, about being treated as a person, not just a wallet, about being acknowledged rather than insulted." The murmurs intensified. Some relatives called her heartless. Others accused her of embarrassing the family. A few younger cousins whispered, uncertain what to make of the sudden drama. Aisha didn't flinch. Her hands gripped the gift tightly. She felt a strange calm rise through her fury. She had drawn a line, a boundary that no amount of family expectation or criticism could cross. "I'm done being disrespected," she said, her eyes sweeping across the room. "This isn't about a tablet, it's about treating people with basic decency." Nadia, furious, crossed her arms. "Fine, take it, but don't expect to be welcomed here again." Aisha nodded and, without another word, left the house. The night air hit her face, cool and liberating. She placed the gift carefully in her car, feeling a strange combination of guilt, relief, and empowerment. For the first time, she understood that standing up for herself might alienate people momentarily, but it also established a truth they could no longer ignore. She didn't need approval to do the right thing. She didn't need validation to protect her boundaries. And as she drove home, she didn't yet know that this small act, snatching back the gift, would trigger a dramatic shift. Within days, the same family members who had criticized, mocked, and belittled her would begin calling her relentlessly. They would grovel, beg, and negotiate, realizing for the first time that their entitlement had consequences. Aisha, for the first time in years, felt in control, not of her relatives, but of herself. And that, she realized, was the first victory. The moment Aisha stepped into her apartment after the party, she sank into the sofa, clutching the tablet. Her chest was still tight with adrenaline, her mind racing with a mixture of guilt and triumph. She knew she had drawn a line that her family had never dared challenge before, but she also knew they wouldn't let it go easily. By the next morning, the calls began. Her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications from family group chats. Messages ranged from accusatory to manipulative, each one carefully designed to provoke guilt. "Aisha, what were you thinking?" texted her brother, Imran. "How could you ruin Sarah's birthday?" typed Nadia, with a string of emojis expressing shock and disapproval. "We can't believe you acted this way. You embarrassed everyone." Aisha read them calmly, her hands gripping the edge of the table. She had expected this. She had expected the outrage, the subtle manipulation, the attempts to make her doubt herself. But something inside her had shifted. She refused to fold under pressure. She typed a single response to the group chat. "I bought the gift. I decide how and when it is given. I will not be disrespected or treated as a wallet. End of discussion." No one replied immediately. By midday, Imran showed up at her apartment, determined to convince her to make amends. He carried himself with a mix of frustration and pleading, a combination Aisha knew all too well. "Listen, Aisha," he began, pacing slightly. "Sarah's upset. Everyone's upset. You've crossed a line. You can't just—" Aisha held up her hand. "Stop. I've already thought about this. I'm not giving the gift to anyone else, and I am not negotiating my boundaries. This is not about the tablet, it's about respect." Imran ran a hand over his face. "You're being unreasonable. It's just a gift." "And it's not just a gift," Aisha replied firmly. "It's my money, my effort, my choice. I am not here to satisfy family expectations or let anyone insult me. I will not apologize for asserting that." Imran shook his head, exasperated, but he could see the determination in her eyes. He left, muttering under his breath about stubbornness, but he knew she wasn't budging. By the evening, more family members arrived at her apartment unexpectedly, hoping to pressure her into submission. Nadia barged in, a thinly veiled fury in her tone. "Aisha, you can't just take the gift back. It's Sarah's birthday. You're acting like a child." Aisha set the tablet on the counter and faced her. "I am acting like an adult. Adults set boundaries. Adults expect respect. This isn't about depriving Sarah. It's about teaching everyone here that entitlement has consequences." Nadia's face turned red with anger. "Consequences? You're humiliating the whole family." "No," Aisha said calmly. "I am simply refusing to participate in a system where I am insulted and expected to give without acknowledgement. Over the next few days, the family ramped up their pressure. Calls came at all hours. Texts alternated between manipulative apologies and veiled threats. Imran tried reasoning with her again, asking her to be generous, while Nadia deployed emotional guilt tactics. "You're ruining family harmony. Are you really going to let pride come between you and your niece?" Aisha didn't reply immediately. She spent hours reflecting. Yes, she loved Sarah, but love didn't mean surrendering herself to disrespect. Her boundaries were non-negotiable. She finally responded to each message individually, carefully crafted. "I love Sarah, but that does not give anyone permission to insult me or manipulate me. I will not hand over the gift under pressure. Respect is non-negotiable." Meanwhile, Sarah, confused and upset, didn't understand why her gift had been taken back. Aisha approached her gently, sitting beside her on the floor and showing her the tablet. "Look, Sarah," Aisha said softly, holding the box between them. "I bought this for you. I want you to have it, but we need to make sure everyone understands it's my gift, and that I deserve respect too. That's the important part." Sarah nodded, her small hands clutching the tablet. "I like it, Kala, but why is everyone mad?" Aisha hugged her. "Sometimes adults forget how to treat each other kindly, but we'll be okay. You'll have your gift, and I'll teach everyone a lesson about respect too." The family, sensing Aisha's resolve, began to panic. For the first time, they realized that their sense of entitlement had limits. The thought of being denied their control or their usual manipulation tactics was alarming. Imran called again, this time with a different tone, pleading, almost desperate. "Aisha, maybe we can work something out. You don't have to be so harsh. Can't we just give Sarah the gift?" Aisha's response was calm, concise, and unwavering. "If respect and courtesy come first, I will consider it. Otherwise, the gift stays with me until the rules are clear." By the weekend, the family's tone had shifted from anger to negotiation. Aunts and uncles who had once whispered criticisms now approached Aisha with flustered apologies. "We may have overreacted," one aunt texted. "We didn't realize how hurtful we were," another admitted. Aisha recognized the shift. For the first time, her family understood that entitlement had consequences, and that her boundaries were firm. The tipping point came when Nadia appeared at her door with a humble expression. "Aisha, I was wrong. We didn't respect you. Please, can we talk?" Aisha didn't smile, but she nodded. "Yes, we'll talk. But understand this, from now on, respect comes first." By the end of the week, Aisha's family had done an about-face. They begged, apologized, and promised to acknowledge her contributions moving forward. The tablet remained with Aisha for safekeeping until she could personally hand it to Sarah under conditions that reinforce respect and appreciation. Aisha realized something critical: standing firm, even in the face of anger and manipulation, was the only way to command respect. Her actions were bold, yes, but they forced her family to see her as a person with boundaries, not just a giver of gifts. And somewhere deep inside, Aisha smiled quietly. She had always loved Sarah, but now she loved herself even more. By midweek, Aisha's apartment had become a hub of tension for her family. What had started as a birthday gift had escalated into a crisis that none of them knew how to handle. Every call, every message, every unannounced visit was a mix of pleading, rationalizing, and guilt-tripping. Yet for Aisha, each interaction reinforced the lesson she had learned. Boundaries were not just for protection, they were power. The first real overture came from her father, a man whose calm demeanor usually smoothed family conflicts. He showed up at her door without announcement, holding a small bouquet of flowers. "Aisha, I think we need to talk," he said softly. She motioned for him to sit, keeping her expression neutral. I think everyone has overstepped," he admitted, glancing down at the floor. I didn't realize how much pressure you were under, and Nadia, she didn't understand how wrong she was. Aisha kept her voice measured. Thank you, Dad. I appreciate your recognition. But recognition alone doesn't undo what's been done. Respect and acknowledgement must come with action. Her father nodded gravely. I understand. You're right. We've all treated you as someone who exists to serve expectations rather than as a person with your own rights. And that needs to change. Aisha felt a quiet satisfaction. Her father's acknowledgement was the first ripple of the reversal she had hoped for. Within hours, the messages flooded in. Relatives, now aware that Aisha would not bend, began begging. Please, Aisha. We were wrong, Nadia's text read. We didn't think, can we fix this? We just want Sarah to be happy. Aisha didn't reply immediately. She let the words settle, knowing that immediate forgiveness was not a requirement. Boundaries, she reminded herself, were strengthened by patience and consistency. Another message arrived from her aunt. We never meant to insult you. Please let us make this right. You've always been generous and we took it for granted. Aisha typed a measured response. I accept apologies. Moving forward, respect must be genuine and boundaries must be honored. Only then will I consider sharing the gift. The responses changed tone. The family who had once assumed entitlement now displayed uncertainty, humility, and even desperation. By the weekend, the family decided a personal approach was necessary. Imran and Nadia arrived together, looking unusually meek. Imran spoke first, his tone tentative. Aisha, we realize now that we pushed too far. Nadia, she didn't mean to offend, but I see how it looked. Can we maybe come to an agreement? Aisha placed the tablet on the counter between them, her hands steady. The agreement is simple. Respect comes first. Any attempt to pressure or belittle me, even subtly, will nullify any offer. Sarah's gift is a reflection of love, not obligation. Do you understand? Both nodded vigorously. Nadia's eyes glistened with guilt. We understand, truly. Please forgive us. Aisha didn't speak immediately. Instead, she observed them. This was the turning point. The family who had mocked and demanded now begged genuinely for her approval. The power had shifted. Aisha decided to reclaim the narrative entirely. She invited Sarah alone for a private birthday celebration. The girl's eyes lit up at the sight of the silver-wrapped gift. This is yours, Aisha said gently, handing the box over. I bought it for you because I love you and I want you to enjoy it. But remember, gifts are a way to show respect too, both to the giver and the receiver. Sarah hugged her tightly. I love it, Kala. Thank you. That simple embrace filled Aisha with warmth and vindication. She had not only preserved her dignity, but had taught an invaluable lesson in respect, entitlement, and the power of standing firm. The next day, Imran and Nadia came again, this time with a plan. They brought flowers, heartfelt letters, and even small tokens of acknowledgement for past wrongs. We know we pushed too far, Imran admitted. We acted as if your kindness was automatic. We're begging you, to let this gift go to Sarah. We promise. Never again will we disrespect you or assume your generosity. Aisha studied them carefully. Their sincerity was evident, their desperation tempered with regret. She realized that she had successfully reversed the dynamics that had governed her family for years. With a calm smile, she finally spoke. Sarah will have the gift, but only because you have proven, in your words and actions, that you understand respect. This is a lesson for all of you. The room relaxed visibly. Relief replaced the earlier tension. The reversal was complete. The family who had mocked and demanded was now humbled and compliant. In the days that followed, the family's behavior changed dramatically. There were no more casual demands, no underhanded comments about her being single or without children. The once dismissive aunt now complimented her on her choices. Nadia, more mindful than ever, approached Aisha with genuine warmth, seeking advice rather than control. Aisha noticed the shift not with pride, but with a quiet satisfaction. She had demonstrated without aggression or anger that boundaries were non-negotiable and respect was earned, not assumed. Even Sarah began to understand, in her small way, that gifts and gestures were about love, not entitlement. The child's joy now felt untainted by family drama. By the end of the week, Aisha reflected on the whirlwind of events. She realized that a single act, snatching back the tablet, had created a ripple effect far beyond her initial expectations. What had begun as a moment of defiance had grown into a broader lesson for her family. Entitlement had limits, respect had weight, and boundaries could not be ignored. Her phone buzzed with a message from her father. "Aisha, thank you. You've taught all of us something important. We're proud of how you handled this, and we'll make sure it never happens again." Aisha typed back, a soft smile on her lips. "Thank you." Actions speak louder than words. I hope this lesson lasts. The sense of triumph wasn't in winning a fight. It was in reclaiming dignity, setting boundaries, and seeing her family transformed by the simple, unwavering principle that respect is mandatory, not optional. After the whirlwind of apologies and begging, Aisha felt a rare calm. The storm had passed, but she knew this was not the time to relax completely. Her family had learned a lesson, yes, but if she didn't set clear expectations, old habits might resurface. She called a family meeting, something she had never done before. Imran, Nadia, and several aunts and uncles arrived at her apartment, uncertain about the tone of the gathering. They expected confrontation or indulgent forgiveness, but Aisha had something else in mind: clarity, boundaries, and accountability. She gestured for everyone to sit. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice calm but firm. "We need to talk about what happened with Sarah's birthday and the tablet. This is not just about one gift. It's about respect, boundaries, and how we treat each other." The room went silent. Even Nadia, usually quick with excuses, seemed to sense that Aisha had reached a new level of authority. "I understand that emotions ran high during the party," Aisha continued. "But taking my generosity for granted, making assumptions about what I should give, and insulting me while you did it is not acceptable. Gifts are meant to show love and appreciation, not entitlement or superiority." Her uncle, usually the most outspoken, cleared his throat. "You're right, Aisha. We acted thoughtlessly. We never considered your feelings." Aisha nodded. "I'm glad you recognize that, but recognition is not enough. Moving forward, I need everyone here to agree to respect my decisions and acknowledge my efforts, not just for Sarah's sake, but for me as well." There was a pause, then Imran spoke. "We do agree. We understand. It won't happen again," Nadia added, her voice almost reverent. "Yes, we understand. You set the rules and we'll follow them." Aisha felt a quiet satisfaction. For the first time in years, she wasn't Jews. Tolerated. She was respected. To ensure the lesson stuck, Aisha decided to let the family take active steps to repair the damage. She asked each person to write a personal note to Sarah and include a small token of affection or acknowledgement for her own role in buying the gift. "Actions speak louder than words," she explained. "If you truly respect me, you'll show it through consideration, not just apologies." Over the next hour, the family busied themselves with careful thought. Handwritten notes, small cards, and flowers began to pile on the table. Even Nadia, meticulously, added a note explaining her earlier behavior and promising to be more mindful. Sarah, observing from the side, didn't fully understand all the tension, but could sense that the adults were treating the situation seriously. She beamed when Aisha handed her the tablet once more. "This is for you," Aisha said gently. "Enjoy it, but remember, everyone here learned an important lesson today. Gifts are given with respect, and respect is earned." Sarah nodded, hugging the tablet, and then Aisha tightly. I love it, Kala. Thank you. After the family left, Aisha reflected on the events. She realized that standing up for herself had not only protected her dignity, but it had also created lasting change. She drafted a simple, clear rule for the family moving forward. Respect Aisha's decisions and boundaries. Acknowledge contributions and generosity. No entitlement or assumptions about gifts or money. Disagreements are to be communicated calmly, not through manipulation or insults. She shared this list in the family chat, and surprisingly, there were no objections. The family, humbled by their and misbehavior, accepted it without argument. Even the relatives who had initially criticized her, those subtle whispers and jabs, now sent messages expressing admiration. We see now that you handle yourself with grace and strength. Thank you for showing us how respect works. Aisha smiled. The power dynamic had shifted completely. For the first time, she wasn't fighting for recognition. She had earned it. Over the next few days, the family began acting differently. Nadia called Aisha for advice before buying gifts for other children. Imran asked her opinion on party planning, and even distant relatives who had previously assumed she would comply unquestioningly now sought her guidance respectfully. One evening, as Aisha was tidying her living room, Nadia appeared with a small, hand-decorated cake for Sarah. I just wanted to show that I can do thoughtful things without overstepping, she said, smiling softly. Aisha accepted the gesture. Thank you, Nadia. I appreciate this, and it's a good start. Remember, it's not about perfection. It's about thoughtfulness and respect. This subtle reinforcement solidified the change. Her family had moved from entitlement to deference, from assumptions to genuine respect. And Aisha had done it without harsh words, confrontation, or losing her composure. For Aisha, the biggest victory wasn't the tablet, nor the public acknowledgement. It was control over her own life and boundaries. She no longer felt the need to appease everyone, and she had proven that standing firm didn't make her unkind. It made her respected. Even Sarah, who now had her tablet safely in her hands, could sense the difference. The child was happy, the gift meaningful, and the family dynamic healthier than it had been in years. Aisha leaned back in her chair, reflecting on the power shift. What had begun as a small personal gesture had rippled outward, creating a lesson in accountability, humility, and respect. She realized that her own assertiveness had changed the family from top to bottom. With the household finally settled, Aisha allowed herself a moment of peace. She prepared a small celebratory dinner for Sarah, just the two of them, without the chaos of extended family. The child laughed and played, her joy pure and untainted. Aisha watched, realizing that she had won something much greater than compliance from her family. She had earned space, dignity, and authority. Her role had shifted from passive giver to active decision-maker, and that change would last. Her phone buzzed with a group message from the family. Thank you, Aisha. We understand now. We will never take your kindness for granted again. Sarah is lucky to have you. Aisha smiled softly, typing back, Thank you. Let's all remember that respect is the real gift here. The final proof of the reversal was complete. Her family, who had once mocked and demanded, now looked to her for guidance, acknowledgement, and approval. She was no longer just a giver. She was the anchor, the authority. Thank you, the voice of respect. By the time Sarah's birthday celebration officially resumed, the atmosphere had completely changed. Gone were the whispers, the judgments, and the subtle tensions that had marred the first party. What remained was a family eager to make amends, careful not to overstep, and genuinely appreciative of Aisha. The moment Aisha carried the silver-wrapped tablet into the room, all eyes softened. She placed it carefully in front of Sarah, and for the first time there were no interruptions, no assumptions, no claiming of credit. This is yours, Sarah, Aisha said gently, smiling. Open it whenever you like. The little girl tore through the wrapping with pure delight, her laughter ringing through the room. Every exclamation of joy, "It's perfect. Wow, Kala, thank you," was genuine. There were no comments about entitlement, no comparisons to other children, no subtle jabs at Aisha's status or life choices. For Aisha, the sight was almost surreal. After all the tension, the snatching of the gift, and the begging, the room now radiated warmth, gratitude, and true family appreciation. After Sarah dived into exploring her new tablet, Aisha called everyone together for a brief chat. She didn't need confrontation this time, just reflection. "I want to thank everyone," she began, her voice calm and steady, not just for the apologies and gestures, but for understanding something fundamental, that respect is not optional. Gifts are meaningful only when they are given and received with acknowledgement, not entitlement. Her mother, who had watched the events unfold from the side, nodded with pride. "Aisha, you handled this with grace. You didn't raise your vow. Ais, you didn't lose your composure, and you taught the family a lesson they will not forget." Her father added, "It takes courage to set boundaries and maintain them. We all learned the hard way that disrespect has consequences. You've earned our respect unequivocally." Even Nadia, still slightly flushed from embarrassment, spoke up. I see now how wrong I was. I will never take your kindness for granted again, not just for gifts, but for everything." The room was quiet for a moment, filled with acknowledgement and understanding. Aisha felt a deep sense of satisfaction. The chaos had transformed into clarity. The family that once mocked and demanded had shifted to one that respected, appreciated, and listened. Aisha decided to use this moment to reinforce lasting change. She proposed a small family tradition. Every major gift or celebration would come with a discussion of gratitude, acknowledgement, and mutual respect. "If we make this a habit," she explained, "we won't just prevent entitlement, we'll strengthen our bonds. And Sarah will learn not just how to enjoy gifts, but how to value the people who give them." Her family agreed wholeheartedly. The acknowledgement of mistakes, combined with structured communication, created a sense of unity that had been absent for years. Even the younger cousins, who had previously witnessed Aisha's supposed unwillingness to give, now admired her courage and clarity. The lesson had permeated multiple generations, proving that one person's resolve could shift an entire family dynamic. After the formal gathering ended, Aisha and Sarah stayed behind to enjoy some quiet time. The tablet lay between them, but it was no longer just a gift. It had become a symbol of boundaries, respect, and love. Sarah looked up at her Kala with sparkling eyes. "Thank you for the tablet, and thank you for teaching everyone how to be fair." Aisha chuckled softly, hugging her niece. "You're welcome, Sarah, but always remember, fairness works best when people treat each other kindly. That's more important than any gift." The words resonated deeply with both of them. Aisha realized that the incident had strengthened her confidence, independence, and authority, not just in her family's eyes, but in her own. She no longer feared being overlooked or taken for granted. In the weeks that followed, the family's behavior remained consistently respectful. Nadia consulted Aisha before making any major family decisions. Imran acknowledged her contributions openly. Even distant relatives who had once whispered or laughed at her expense now sought her input and expressed genuine appreciation. Aisha found that her sense of control and dignity had not only restored harmony, but had also improved the overall family atmosphere. The household, once fraught with tension and competition, now functioned on mutual respect and understanding. Sarah, of course, enjoyed her tablet endlessly, but she also learned a subtle lesson about boundaries, respect, and the value of thoughtful giving. One evening, as the sun set and the family's had buzzed with updates about birthdays, holidays, and shared meals, Aisha received a message from Imran. "Aisha, thank you for standing your ground. We've learned more than we ever expected. You've changed the way we see each other, and we're grateful. Truly," she smiled, replying, "Thank you." The real gift was the lesson we all needed to learn. Respect is worth more than anything money can buy, And for the first time in years, Aisha felt fully empowered, not just as a giver of gifts, but as a respected member of her family. The backfired birthday gift had turned into a triumph of dignity, authority, and love.
That night, Aisha sat in her favorite chair,
Reflecting on the events that had unfolded over the past week. The tablet was still in her hands, but it was no longer just a material object. It symbolized courage, boundaries, and the power to stand firm in one's convictions. Her family, once entitled and dismissive, had changed. They now sought her approval, valued her contributions, and understood the importance of respect. Aisha smiled softly to herself, realizing that the moment she had snatched the gift back wasn't an act of anger. It was the start of a lasting transformation. As she looked at Sarah, asleep on the couch with a tablet beside her, Aisha whispered softly, "My gift wasn't just for you, little one. It was for all of us, to learn that respect is everything." And in that quiet, victorious moment, Aisha knew she had won. Not by fighting, not by shouting, but by standing firm, setting boundaries, and insisting on the dignity she had always deserved. More stories will keep coming, so please don't forget to like and subscribe.